My name is Victor Barrera. So I met Henry back in 2004. I was introduced to him through my soccer coach. I was involved with a fist fight with a couple of the kids and they ended up pressing charges. So I met Henry and my first impression to him was like, you know, he was explaining to me that he was about a couple years out of the law school and all of that. So it was kind of nerve-wracking because at a young age, you know, you don't know what to expect. But I took a chance with him, and to me, to this day, he's always been like a very good, genuine, caring person. It's really rare to find that in a lawyer, because usually lawyers just want to tell you things that you want to hear. But in Henry's case, he just tells you what you need to hear, whether you like it or not. But I think that honesty comes a long way. Just a couple stories with him. He represented me from '05 and '07. '07 was a pretty big case because it involved a lot of gang assaults, and the other my co-defendants were charged with murder, and so just think about it now. It's just, you know, at that time I was 17, you know, and it's crazy not thinking about it because, you know, it's a very, really, really hard situation to be in, you know, especially being a young kid. Didn't know what to expect, and you know, till this day, you know, I think about Henry, you know, and all the things he said to me while I was sitting in there, because once I was in there, I was not coming home. You know, that's how I had it in my mind, and you know, my mind was already set, like, okay, you're gonna stay here. You know, this is your home for whatever amount of time. And then the thing I respect a lot about Henry is the fact that even though you're going through a lot of hardship in your life, he'll still talk to you. Like, he'll take you out of that reality and just, you know. I remember one time we were in the visiting room, and at the time Michael Vick was going through the whole dog situation, and you know, just having a conversation with him, it just made me, you know, like, all right, you know, it eased everything at that moment. It took me out of the situation I was in for a brief second, and we were just talking, and it just made me realize, you know, that the path that I was going wasn't the path for me. And he always told me, you know, he's like, you're a smart kid, you know, and he wants, you know, I want the best for you. So he's like, you're either gonna keep running in circles or you're just gonna run a straight path. And, you know, to this day, I always think about it, because the other guys weren't so lucky, you know. They ended up doing more than 10 years, and you know, to this day, I keep in contact with one of them. You know, he was a friend regardless, and you know, I just think about that time. And the day I was released, I did not know I was being released. Came to a complete shock, because, you know, Henry gave me two options: either take a plea bargain or we're gonna take this to a grand jury. And in my head, you know, I had nothing to do with whatever they were accusing me of. And, you know, Henry always told me, he was like, listen, if you tell me the truth, I can help you out. He doesn't like secrets. He always wants the truth. And, you know, and I took a big gamble with him, because, you know, a lot of people were, you know, people around me were saying, you know, maybe we should go to a different lawyer and, you know, figure out other options. And it's hard because I'm the one in the situation, so nobody could really tell me anything else to comfort me. And I went with the grand jury, and you know, from what I remember, it was a long time ago, they took about 45 days to try to convict me. And on my 45th day, 46th day, I wasn't keeping count. You know, at that point, like, you know, you get tired of counting days and wake up. I was reading a book in my cell, and they called my name. They told me to pack my things. And in my head, I was like, all right, whatever, I'm going to another part of the facility, you know. And then, you know, the CO asked me, you know, where you going? I said, most likely to the main building because I was in another building. And he was like, no, you're discharged. And I'm like, what? And my emotions went crazy. And, you know, and then I remember I was walking down Carmen Avenue with a big plastic bag full of stuff. And I'm just thinking like, damn, you know, I had nobody pick me up, so I'm gonna just walk home, you know, surprise everybody, I didn't want to call nobody. And then luckily my dad already knew that I was coming home because Henry called him. And then Henry, I get in the car and my dad passes me the phone and it's Henry. And then Henry says, I'm assuming you already know that you're free, so not free yet because we still had to do the whole grand jury, but free as in like not being in there. And then he reminded me of the staying on the straight path, and he's, you know, he's a remarkable person. As you know, he's genuine, he's really caring. And then just thinking about it just makes you really think, like, you know, what if I would have never took the grand jury way, you know, maybe I would have took the plea bargain and life would have definitely played out different. But that didn't stop, you know, at that point I was very arrogant and ignorant, so I kept getting in trouble, like, and Henry, I remember Henry was a little upset because he's like, I worked day and night harassing these detectives and all of that, and you're giving them a reason to keep harassing you and bothering you and all of that. At that point, I didn't understand because, like I said, I was young. I felt like I just beat the system. And, you know, and one of the things he's always told me was that you could be successful in so many ways, whether it's financially or you open up your own business, or just being successful within yourself, as in, you know, a lot of people take their freedom for granted. So he was like, you know, stay in the books, you know. His thing is change the scenario, you know, and he's always saying change the scenario, you know, go somewhere, wherever you want to go to the beach, take a walk, but try to pick your friends wisely. And, you know, that's something that's always stuck with me a lot because a lot of the friends that I thought were friends, they never came to see me, they never wrote me a letter, none of that. And then I got in more trouble, like I was saying earlier, I got in more trouble. And, you know, Henry, like I said, Henry was a little upset about it. But, you know, Henry being the person that he is, that he's like, all right, you know, I'm gonna handle it. And he worked out a pretty good deal. I ended up catching a couple drug cases, and, you know, and he worked his tail off to like keep me out of, you know, jail, and ended up with probation and all that. And just, you know, picking his brain and looking at, you know, the way he handled himself actually inspired me to be, you know, wanting to go into law. But, you know, life took a different route. I ended up having kids, and, you know, I have to provide for my kids, obviously. And one thing that he tells me, he's like, it's never too late. It's never too late. And I just had this conversation with him about a couple weeks ago. He's like, listen, you know, if you need me to help you with, you know, trying to find a good school, you know, whatever you need, he's always a phone call away. And it's true because, you know, I've called him a couple times. I remember one time I called him, and I believe he was out of town or like out of the country or something. And it was during the day, and then he called me at the night. That same night he called me, he's like, what's up? What's on your mind? And he already knows that, you know, when I call at an urgency, like back to back like that, he knows something's up. And that's the one thing I always loved about the guy, because he knows he's not here to beat around the bush. He knows exactly what's going on. And his remark was like, okay, call my secretary in the morning. You're gonna have all the paperwork you need. Just pick it up. And you know, he was just fresh off a flight, so for him to, you know, really put stuff into order just like that, it was amazing, because another person would have just waited till the next day and just, okay, you know, come next week, we'll figure it out. No, it was never the case with Henry. He's always on top of everything. And then, you know, if I had to describe Henry in one word, I believe he's a workaholic. He loves what he does, even though he lacks sleep, he's up for 30 hours straight, but he's always on top of everything. He's always that one person that you could depend on to get the job done. And, you know, to this day, he's never failed me, you know, and I definitely respect him for that. Because a lot of lawyers, I mean, from my experience, a lot of lawyers, they're just there for the money, and they just want your money and tell you what you want to hear, and sometimes it's not right, you know, and you need to hear the truth, whether it's cold or whether it hurts or it's heartbreaking, but you need to hear the truth. And Henry's always been that way. Since the day I met him, he's always been that way. And then, man, the stories, it's wild. And then we had a conversation, and at that time I was caddying for a golf course that's around the area. And then he always tells me, he's like, we have to go hit a couple balls and go play golf, and you know. But like for a lawyer to have that type of relationship, you know, and continuing to have that type of relationship, it's great, you know, because once your case is done, your lawyer pretty much just walks out of your life until you need him again, you know, until you put this Batman signal in the sky and they just come through, you know. But not Henry, man. He calls, whether it's 5 months from now or next week, he'll still find a way to reach out, whether it's through social media or a phone call or even a letter. I remember I received a letter from Henry, and he told me, listen, you know, I don't know how to get in contact with you, so I just wrote to the last known address I have to you, and I just wanted to see how you're doing, if I needed help with anything. Like I was mentioning earlier, I caught a couple of drug cases, and he always reminds me of the things he's done, and I feel like it's because he wants me to stay on that straight path that he always wanted me to do. And then I remember the judge was pissed off because I kept going back and, you know, doing the same things that I got arrested before. And the judge pretty much wanted to throw me in jail for a little bit. And then Henry was like, nah, I think we're gonna try to, you know, put him in a program and, you know, let him develop on his own. He insisted that jail wasn't a rehab for me, that jail wasn't a place that would help me be a productive citizen. And I definitely joined the program, and made me think a lot, you know, just being there with all these other people that have the same issues, whether it's, you know, family issues, you know, they went through their own things, or I noticed that we all shared the same hardships. And it made me, you know, because at a young age I was involved with gangs, I'm not ashamed to say it. And till this day, you know, a lot of the kids that are part of the same gang that I was, you know, I try to talk to them, you know, I try to tell them, like, listen, you know, sooner or later, you know, you're gonna learn you either take my advice or you're gonna take the route that everybody else does, which is either 6 feet deep or in a 5x4 cell, and having somebody tell you to shower, when to shower, who you can call, who you can text, going through your mail and all of that. Because at the end of the day, like, to me, that was very, like, you have no privacy in there, you know, just thinking about it, you have no privacy. They could come in your room whenever. So I feel like that's my way of giving back, you know, my life, sharing my life experiences with the kids. And, you know, I'm 27, so that was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And then I have a son now, and you know, I told Henry this the other day. You know, a lot of kids, you know, they grow up, they follow their father's footsteps. And I told Henry, I said, I don't want my son to go there, you know, because I've been to places that I wouldn't want my son to be. And then, you know, Henry's always like, you know, that's very inspiring, you know. And I'm like, you know, and 10 years ago, you couldn't sit me down and have a decent conversation with me. I was very difficult to have a conversation with. So when I came in here a couple years ago, Henry's like, wow, you talk different. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I went through my own, you know. He was like, yeah, that's good, you know, it's about time. And we just laugh about it, you know, it's just, you know, because he remembers me as this kid that was very off track. But, you know, like I said, you know, I try to talk to these kids nowadays because nowadays we're living in strange times. And at the end of the day, you know, we're all human. So for these kids to, you know, follow that route is going to be very hard because, you know, the government isn't playing with these kids anymore. You know, we're talking about 16-year-olds throwing their life away for street corners that we don't even own. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's crazy. And now I'm more involved with my son. You know, I'm coaching his football team now, so I try to keep my son, you know, on the right path because I don't think we have boys and girls club like how we used to. And, you know, even if we do, you know, I think as a father, I think, you know, you should really show interest in your kids more than just letting a complete stranger take over your role. And so that's my goal in life, to be honest with you, is to set my kids on the right path and avoid as many obstacles. Even though, you know, obstacles they come and go, but they have to be prepared for it, you know. And I just really hope that you could try to, not me, but, you know, I can't save the world, but try to change the world around them. Henry, yeah, he's a good dude. He's a very great dude. He's a genuine, like I said, he's a very genuine person. You know, at the end of the day, like, it's hard to find that genuity in somebody. Right, genuity, that's right. I don't want to just be making up words. I think my life would have been different if I would have chosen another lawyer, or even if I would have took the plea bargain, because that was 07. My first daughter was born in 09. And to me, my kids are my blessings, because, you know, I don't know where I would be without them, you know. And picking another lawyer was tough, man, because a lot of lawyers were asking for a crazy amount of money for pretty much telling me the same thing that Henry was telling me. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, my parents being parents, they search for different options, and I told them straight up, you know, I'm like, it's me in here. Like, you know, once I'm in here, I'm in here. So I was very confident in Henry, because the way he handled my first case, pretty much it was thrown out of court, and you know, there was nothing really reprimands or whatever. And so I was, you know, I was happy with those results. So I said, let's go, Henry. Let's do this again. And pretty much, you know, I told him the story. I definitely did tell him the truth to, you know, keep him in the loop with everything, because at the end of the day, I believe the police wanted me involved was to pretty much rat everybody out, because they knew how deeply involved I was with the gang, and they had a lot against me, and then they have pictures and, you know, gang affiliations and all that. And I guess they you know, from what I understand, from the way I was chosen was because um, one of these gang members got arrested for something else, completely not to do with anything what we were arrested for, and just pretty much started saying names just to cut a deal. And I found that out through, associates, and it just made me really think about who my true friends really were. And speaking to my friend who's still doing time for it, speaking to him and getting his insight on everything, and it just makes me really, and it's, to me, it just amazes me. He's like, listen, like you're lucky, and just go out there, do your thing, just like you always do. And when I told Henry that I knew a lot more than what the police knew, Henry was like, okay, so we're gonna do this route, we're gonna do this and see how this plays out, and now we're gonna go with plan B, which was take the plea bargain. And in my head, I'm like, I have to beat this case. Like, I have to get out of there. And then Henry's like, once we beat this case, then we're gonna take the police. We're gonna get them for whatever we want. After that case was over, I pretty much like I said, I was ignorant, and I just felt like I just beat the whole system, and I really wasn't pursuing the settlement with the Nassau Police Department because I just didn't want nothing to be associated with them. And Henry respected my decision about it, even though my parents weren't too happy about it, I just didn't pursue it as much. I wasn't adamant about it. I do regret it to this day because I feel like financially we'd have been secured. But I believe that everything happens for a reason. So, you never know, man. With that type of money, being that young, man, you don't know where I would have been. I'd have been probably in Vegas or something, going crazy. But that's just being honest, man. I know kids that blew thousands of dollars and just like nothing, it's overnight, it's gone. So I feel like that's just, a blessing that I didn't receive that money and didn't pursue them because, man. But anyway, he always kept in contact with my godmother because my godmother at that time, she was pretty much, the one to keep everybody sane. He communicated with my dad a lot. I'll tell you, man, it's hard to find somebody that's very fluent in Spanish that's non-Hispanic, and his Spanish is like, wow, like, and it impresses me because it's like, if you talk in Spanish and you think that he doesn't know Spanish and you're talking bad about him, he will respond to you in Spanish and you'll feel like a complete idiot, to be honest with you. And then as far as that, he's been there for my family a lot because my godmother was telling me, like, hey, Henry just came by the house. He stopped by to see how everybody's doing. My father would tell me, he called and he told me to tell you, just stay there. He's gonna talk to the detectives in the morning. He has meetings with the homicide detectives or the district attorneys or whoever he has to deal with. And I said, all right, I had no choice but to sit tight. I just, just sit there, and then Henry always told me, he's like, listen, just read books. Try to, try not to think that you're in this hellhole, like he says, and just stay focused on something. Focus on something. He's like, at that time, I liked writing. I like writing lyrics. Like, I wanted to be like this rapper type person. And then he's like, just keep writing. Read books. Knowledge is everything. It's just. So it made me read books. Like, I started reading. I read The Prince. I read that book. I was 17. And then I read this book called Detective, and it's made me just like an insight of what that detectives actually do. So I was like, damn, like, it's true. Like, these guys are really doing it to me. So it's like, but Henry's always told me, just stay focused, man. Keep your mind clear. Do what you have to do to pass the time. Work out, because you're either working out or just reading a book, watching TV. But at that point, I really didn't watch TV because I didn't want to deal with nothing on the outside. I just wanted to do my time, and that's it. And it's sad because it's like you're 17 and you already have this mentality like, all right, you're gonna stay here, you gotta make the best of it. And he used to tell me, stay focused, keep your mind off of things. And at that point, like I said, I didn't want to watch TV. I wanted to stay away from the outside world. And then he's like, just read, do something. And he said, then like I said, it's sad, at that, like 17 and, wanting to already be used to this environment. It's not a good look because in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm not going home. Let me just make the best of it, and just take it day by day. And then I'm like, take it hour by hour, and then day by day, and then week by week, and then it's just exhausting. You're there looking at the calendar, and it's just like, and eventually, like after probably 2 months being in there, I just ripped my calendar and just whatever. I tried to, I did the youth counseling in there. I was working the food line. I kept to myself. Even though a lot of friends were in there, a lot of associates that I know growing up, I always told them like, I'm just here, I'm just here to do my time, that's it. And then, they were involved in other deeper stuff, and I chose to like stay away from it, because at the end of the day, I had to really come home, and I remember I had long hair down to like probably like halfway my back. And Henry, the first thing he told me, he's gotta cut that shit off. Like, just like that, he's like, you gotta cut that shit off. And I'm like, why? It's just hair. He's like, no, because to them, you look like a thug. And he's like, you gotta start thinking like them. And I didn't understand it, but I just took his advice for it. And man, I tell you, those barbers had fun with my hair. The next day he saw me, he's like, okay, so you're listening. He's like, you're a great listener, at least, you take the advice. And I cut my hair, and I remember my mom saw me, she's like, you seriously cut your hair? I was like, yeah. I was like, I had my hair for like at least 3 years. So it was a while for my mom saw me with like bald, like how I am now. And then, like I said, I never understood what he meant by the image until you're in that position and you have all these people looking at you and just, really judging you before they even know you, before they even speak to you. And, nowadays, like I said earlier, we live in strange times where people still judge you, don't even know you, just based off the color of your skin or the way you talk or whatever the case is. And to this day, I always think like, this image, you have to keep this image. You have to really look yourself in the mirror and find your soul, and make sure your heart is still intact, make sure your mind is still intact, and just be who you are. Henry Long is a remarkable human being. He definitely is. And I can always count on that man, and I always tell him, like, yo, you the man, Henry. I always tell him that, like, you the man. He was like, yeah, don't worry about it, everything. He always tells me, we're gonna get through it together. And that's the one thing I love, because it's always a team. It's not, all right, well, you're gonna get through it. Don't worry about it, you'll be all right. He's gonna be like, nah, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then he's like, the judge is gonna see that we are here to right now, because right now I'm going through a custody battle. So that, you know, from my experiences, he's like, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get your son. So that's why I feel like, you know, it's a sensitive topic, but I would recommend this guy to whoever. You know, if you really need the job done and you tired of like hearing, you know, the nonsense that comes out of most of these lawyers' mouths, come see Henry. And he's a very great dude. He's always makes the clients his priority, and if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be at this point. You know, he helped me out a lot. He definitely did. He's responsible for my own success, and that's being from the gutter and still being here, going through what I went through, you know, having 3 kids, you know. Like he's told me, like, you know, you could be successful in so many ways, and I believe I've been successful. Whether money isn't, you know, I'm blessed, you know, because I have friends that didn't make it past 16, or, you know, done 20 years and pretty much they're coming home to 35, damn near 40. So it's hard, man, coming from the gutter. But I'm here, you know, and I recommend Henry to anybody who really needs the guidance. And personally, I would like to thank Henry on behalf of my family, my kids, and I hope that I hope nothing but health and success for this man, and hope that he keeps being the same genuine person that he is.